On October 13th, 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team disappeared into the Andes Mountains. The world searched for 10 days, then called it off. They were gone, presumed dead, all 45 of them. What the world did not know was that 27 of them had survived the crash, and what those 27 did to stay alive over the next 72 days, nobody was prepared to hear. In December, 16 of them walked out of the mountains alive. This is how they did it. Here is what you need to know about that flight. The Old Christians Club was an amateur rugby team from Montevideo, Uruguay. Young men, students, most of them in their late teens and early 20s. They had chartered a Uruguayan Air Force Fairchild turboprop to fly them to Santiago, Chile for an exhibition match. 40 passengers, 5 crew, 45 people in total. Among them, Nando Parado, 22 years old. His mother Eugenia was sitting beside him. His sister Susie was a few rows back. The route from Montevideo to Santiago required crossing the Andes, one of the highest and most dangerous mountain ranges on Earth. The pilot stopped overnight in Mendoza, Argentina, and took off again on the morning of October 13th. The weather over the Andes was poor. Visibility was low. The co-pilot, less experienced than any of them realized, believed he had already cleared the mountains when he had not. He began his descent toward Santiago while the plane was still deep in the Andes. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the plane struck the top of a mountain at 4,200 meters altitude. The right wing clipped a peak and tore away. Then the left wing, the fuselage, the body of the plane, kept moving. It slid down a glacier for 725 meters before stopping in a snow-covered valley. 12 people died in the crash itself. 3 crew members, 9 passengers. 33 were still alive, but they were at 3,600 meters in the Andes. The temperature at night dropped to -30. They had chocolate, jam, wine, and whatever food had been on the plane. Enough for days, not weeks, and nobody knew where they were. For the first 10 days, they waited to be rescued. They saw search planes overhead. They waved. They tried to signal. The planes never saw them. The white fuselage was invisible against the snow. After 10 days, the search was called off. The Andes had swallowed them completely. A small group found a transistor radio in the wreckage. They huddled around it listening to Chilean news broadcasts. One afternoon, a bulletin announced that the search for the missing Uruguayan plane had been officially ended. All aboard were presumed dead. One of the survivors shouted to the others, "Hey boys, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is they've stopped looking for us. The good news is we're on our own." The food ran out within days. They had injured to care for. Men dying slowly of their wounds. Nights so cold that survival in the fuselage was itself a daily achievement. A medical student named Roberto Canesa looked at the bodies of the dead around them in the snow and said what nobody else had been able to say out loud. If they were going to survive, they would have to eat them. Most of them refused. At first, the idea was unthinkable, against everything they believed, against their faith, against every human instinct. But the days kept passing, and the cold kept killing. One by one, they made the same choice. The bodies were preserved perfectly in the Andean cold. The cutting was done out of sight by a select few. The meat was dried in the sun to make it more bearable. Nobody spoke about what it was while they ate. Nando Parado's mother had died in the crash. His sister Susie died 9 days later in his arms. He protected their bodies. They were never touched. On October 29th, 16 days after the crash, an avalanche buried the fuselage while most of them were sleeping inside. 8 more died. The survivors spent 3 days digging out with their bare hands. 27 had survived the crash. Now there were 15. By November, they had been on the mountain for 6 weeks. They had survived the crash, the cold, the search being called off, the avalanche. They had made choices that none of them would ever fully explain to the outside world, but nobody was coming. 2 previous attempts to walk out of the mountains had failed. The Andes stretched in every direction. They had no maps, no mountaineering equipment, no experience, and the peaks around them were enormous. Blinding white slopes rising thousands of meters in every direction. Nando Parrado had lost his mother and his sister on this mountain. He had spent 3 days in a coma after the crash. He had come back, and he had decided something. He was going to walk out of these mountains, or he was going to die trying. On December 12, 1972, 60 days after the crash, Parrado and Roberto Canessa set out on foot. They had fashioned sleeping bags from the insulation of the plane's interior. They had makeshift crampons. They had food that nobody outside these mountains would ever know about. They climbed. For 10 days they climbed. Over passes above 5,000 meters, across glaciers, through conditions that experienced mountaineers with proper equipment would have hesitated to attempt. On the 9th day, they saw a river. Where there is a river, there are people. On December 20th, a Chilean farmer on the other side of a roaring river saw 2 wild-looking figures on the opposite bank, waving desperately. He threw them bread. He came back the next morning with a rescue team. When Parrado told them there were 14 more survivors up in the mountains, nobody could believe it. On December 22nd and 23rd, 1972, Chilean Air Force helicopters reached the crash site. 14 survivors were still there, still alive, 72 days after the crash. When the helicopter crews arrived, they found men who were thin beyond recognition but completely composed, who had organized themselves, who had cared for their injured, who had never stopped believing they would get out. The world was not prepared for what came next. When the story broke, the initial headline celebrated the miracle: 16 survivors, 72 days, against all odds. Then the full story came out. The cannibalism sparked outrage across South America and beyond. Religious leaders condemned it. Newspapers called it horrifying. The families of the dead were devastated, but the survivors had an answer. Canessa, the medical student who had first proposed it, said they made a pact that if they died, they would be glad to give their bodies to help the others survive. That it was an act of love, that their friends had given them life even after death. The Catholic Church, after consideration, agreed. A priest in Montevideo said that what they had done was not a sin, that survival is not a sin. Every December 22nd, the 16 survivors meet to commemorate their rescue. In 2022, on the 50th anniversary, they gather with their families. 147 people, children and grandchildren of men who should never have come home. Parrado looked at the photograph and said, "This is a story of life." In 2024, a Netflix film called Society of the Snow told their story. The real survivors served as consultants. The film was shot on location in the actual Andes. Nando Parrado still gives talks. Roberto Canessa became a cardiologist. Most of the 16 built ordinary lives, families, jobs, quiet routines. And every year they go back to each other because nobody else will ever fully understand what those 72 days required of them. They went to the Andes as a rugby team. They came back as something else entirely. 16 men who chose life and paid every price there was to pay for it.